Picture yourself standing on the first tee. Two drivers in your bag to choose from. One cost you $600 last spring. The other is 3 years old and cost a fraction of that. Here's the truth I found after testing both on a launch monitor. The expensive one wasn't longer, not by a single yard. And that little discovery is going to save you a small fortune and hand you back distance you didn't know you'd lost. I'm not a tour pro. I'm a guy who's played this game for over 40 years, watched my swing speed drop, and got tired of paying more every season for less. So I tested it all myself. No brand paid me a dime. I still remember the afternoon I hit my old gamer and a brand new model back-to-back at a fitting bay, and the ball speed numbers on that screen were within 1 mile per hour of each other. That's when I got suspicious. Stick with me, because near the end, I'll show you a documented rule change from 2008 that quietly explains why almost every driver made since then is closer in distance than the marketing wants you to believe. And the best part, this works with the driver already sitting in your garage right now. You don't have to buy anything new to use it. Let me start with the thing nobody's selling you a driver wants to explain. There is a hard ceiling on how fast a golf ball can leave a driver face. It's called the coefficient of restitution, the COR for short, and the governing body's capped it at 0.83. That number is the trampoline effect, how much energy the face springs back into the ball. Once a face hits that limit, it is physically illegal to make it hotter. Now, here's why that matters to your wallet. The big manufacturers reached that limit years ago. When I test a driver from 2019 against one from this year on the same launch monitor with the same ball, the ball speed off the center of the face is nearly identical because it has to be. The law says so. Let me give you the specific numbers because vague talk is exactly what I'm trying to save you from. My driver swing speed these days sits around 88 miles per hour. On a good strike, my ball speed comes off at about 130 miles per hour. That's a smash factor right at 1.48. A brand new $600 head gave me 131 on my best swing. That's 1 mile per hour. 1 mile per hour is worth about 2 yards of carry. 2 yards for over $400 in difference. Think about that. 2 yards. You get more than that from a firmer fairway. So the verdict on this first piece is simple. The face of your driver is not what's holding you back, and it hasn't been for a long time. The center strike ball speed of the good drivers is basically maxed out and has been for over a decade. And if you want all of this written down in one place, I've put it together for you. My books, Swing Strong and Full Swing, walk through everything, the launch monitor data, the loft and shaft framework, and the used driver buying plan, so you can take it to the range and the pro shop with a clear head. You'll find the details in the description below. Now, back to the part that actually matters, because if the head is maxed out, a real question opens up. If they can't legally make the ball come off faster, then what exactly have you been paying more for every single year? Because the price sure kept climbing. Let me show you what I found, because this is where it stops being an accident and starts looking deliberate. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, driver technology really was moving fast. Heads grew from little pear-shaped metal woods to the big titanium models we know. Then the governing bodies stepped in. In 2004, they capped the head size at 460 cubic centimeters. Not long after, they locked down the spring effect and added a measurement called characteristic time, the CT test, capped at 239 microseconds with a small tolerance. And they capped the forgiveness measurement, the moment of inertia, at 5,900. Do you see what happened there? Every single thing that makes a driver long and forgiving got a legal ceiling. Head size, capped. Face speed, capped. Forgiveness, capped. By roughly 2008, the engineers had run out of room to make drivers dramatically better. The physics was fenced in, so the marketing had to change. It couldn't say faster anymore because faster was illegal. So it started selling you feelings. New paint, a new sound tuned in a lab, a carbon crown that saves a few grams, a story about artificial intelligence designing a face. Every year, A fresh reason to spend $600 on something that performs within a rounding error of what you already own. I fell for it. I want to be honest with you about that because I made the same mistake I'm warning you against. There was a stretch where I bought a new driver almost every other year, chasing yards. I'd hit it a few times at the store. The salesman would nod. The number looked good in my head, and I'd hand over the card. I probably spent $2,000 over 6 years, and my average drive on the course did not move. The independent robot testing backs this up in a way no salesman ever will. When the folks at My Golf Spy strap driver after driver into a swing robot and hit them under identical conditions, the distance spread between the longest driver of the year and the shortest is usually only a handful of yards. Sometimes the gap between the best and worst of the whole field is smaller than the difference you'd get from just teeing the ball a little higher. The winner one year is a mid-pack finisher. The next, it's a shuffle, not a revolution. So the verdict here stings a little. And I say it as a guy who paid the tuition. You've not been buying distance. You've been buying newness. The overcharging isn't a conspiracy in a dark room. It's a business model built on your very reasonable assumption that newer must mean longer. But before you get too discouraged, here's where it turns. Therefore, this is the part that actually matters. If the head barely matters, then something else is deciding how far you hit it. And for a player over 50, that something else is where the real yards are hiding. Let me show you exactly what to look for and which drivers actually deliver it for your game. Here's the shift that changed everything for me. Once I stopped obsessing over the head and the paint job, I started paying attention to two things almost nobody in the store leads with: loft and shaft weight. And for a slower swing, those two numbers are worth more yards than any face technology ever invented. Let me explain loft first, because this one is costing seniors distance every single weekend. When you swing slower, you need more loft to carry the ball, not less. The instinct is to play a 9 or 10 degree driver because that's what the long hitters use. But a long hitter creates his own launch with speed and spin. You and I don't have that speed anymore. We have to buy the launch back with loft. Here are the real numbers. For a swing speed around 85 to 90 miles per hour, the optimal launch angle to maximize carry is somewhere near 14 to 15 degrees, with a spin rate around 2,700 to 3,000. Most seniors I test are launching their drives at 10 or 11 degrees with too little spin, and the ball falls out of the sky early. When I moved a fitting client from a 9.5 degree head up to a 12 degree head, same swing, he picked up 11 yards of carry. 11. That's $400 of face technology in one hosel adjustment. Now, shaft weight, this is the second hidden lever. The standard stiff shaft in a lot of drivers weighs around 70 grams. For a slower, smoother tempo, that's often too much to swing fast. Drop to a lighter shaft in the 50 to 60 gram range in a regular or senior flex, and a lot of players over 50 gain 2 to 4 miles per hour of swing speed for free. Remember what I said. Every mile per hour of ball speed is about 2 yards. Pick up 3 miles per hour of clubhead speed, and you might find 8 to 10 yards you thought your body had stolen from you. So let me get specific about which drivers actually deliver this, because that's why you clicked. For a player with a slower swing who wants the ball up and gone, the Ping G430 in the high launch configuration is a standout. Ping builds a version they literally designed lighter and higher launching with a lighter shaft and a higher loft aimed right at our demographic. It's not a gimmick. The lighter total weight helps you swing it faster, and the loft gets the ball airborne. The Cleveland Launcher XL Lite is another one I recommend without hesitation for slower swings, because the whole club is built light on purpose, and it's usually $100 or more cheaper than the flagship names. The Callaway, Ice Smoke, and the older Rogue and Paradigm models in the max configuration give you enormous forgiveness on off-center hits, which matters more than raw distance when your strike isn't perfect every time. For the higher handicapper who just wants to keep it in play, forgiveness is your friend. And the biggest Most forgiving heads with a draw bias will straighten out that slice that's costing you far more distance than any face ever could. A slice doesn't just go crooked, it robs yards because side spin eats into carry. The Ping G430 in the standard or the draw bias model and the Cobra models in the max setup are built exactly for this. For the mid-handicapper with decent speed, you've got the widest choice, and honestly, this is where buying last year's model saves you the most because the performance gap is tiny. The Titleist TSR2 and the TaylorMade Chi 10 are excellent, but so is the model that came before them at half the price. And for the low handicapper who actually delivers speed and wants to shape shots, the lower spin heads with a movable weight, like the Titleist in the 3 configuration or the TaylorMade low spin model, give you control. But even here, the head is a small part of the equation compared to a properly fit shaft. So the verdict on this block is the one I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. Buy the head that fits your swing speed and your miss, not the head on the tour van. Get the loft up and the shaft weight down. That's where your handicap actually improves. But I know what a lot of you are thinking right now because I'd be thinking it too. You're saying, that's great advice for a guy about to spend money, but I already own my driver and I'm not buying another one. And you know what? This next part is for you specifically because you can pull almost every one of these gains out of the club already in your bag today for free. Here's what most people never realized about the driver they already own. If you bought it in the last 10 years or so, there is a very good chance it has an adjustable hosel. That little wrench that came in the box, the one you used once and threw in a drawer, is the most underused tool in golf. That hosel lets you change the loft, usually by up to 2 degrees in either direction. 2 degrees. Remember when I told you the fitting client gained 11 yards of carry from added loft? You may be able to do the exact same thing right now without spending a cent. Go get that wrench. If your driver is set at the standard loft, try turning it to the higher setting. For most slower swings, adding a degree or a degree and a half of loft will get your launch up toward that 14-degree window where carry maximizes. Here's exactly how to do it so you don't get lost. Loosen the screw at the bottom of the head just until the head can turn on the shaft. Don't take it all the way out. Rotate the head to the setting marked with the higher loft. You'll see the markings right there on the hosel sleeve. Snug it back down until you hear it click and feel it seat. That's it. You just refit your own driver. Now, most adjustable drivers also let you set a draw bias. If your miss is a slice, and for the majority of amateurs it is, set the hosel to the draw or upright position. That shift closes the face slightly at impact and fights the left to right spin that's bleeding your distance and sending you into the trees. I've seen this one change, take 5 yards of slice off a drive and put the ball back in the short grass. That's not a new club. That's the wrench you already own. And here's the second free adjustment, the one on the sole. A lot of drivers have a movable weight near the back or the heel. Slide that weight toward the heel and it promotes a draw toward the back and it raises launch and forgiveness. Play with it on the range, not in a store, and watch what your own ball does. Now let me talk about the tee, because this is so simple. People laugh and then they stop laughing when they see the number. Most amateurs tee the ball too low. To take advantage of your driver's face and launch the ball on the up, half the ball should sit above the crown of the driver at address. Teeing it higher and moving the ball forward off the inside of your lead heel encourages you to strike it slightly on the upswing. Hitting up instead of down adds launch and cuts spin at the same time, which is exactly the recipe a slower swing needs. I've watched players add several yards of carry from a higher tee and a forward ball position alone. No purchase, just a tweak. And one more thing on the gear you own, check your grip. A worn, hard, slick grip makes you squeeze the club tighter, and a tight grip kills club head speed. A fresh grip costs around $10. It's the cheapest speed you will ever buy, and it turns the club you already have into one that feels new in your hands. So the verdict for the existing driver crowd is this. Before you spend $1 on a new head, spend 20 minutes with the wrench, the tee, and a fresh grip. You may recover 8, 10, 12 yards from the exact club you are about to replace. That's the honest truth. The industry has zero interest in telling you because there's no profit in you keeping what you've got. But here's the thing. Even after all of that, there's still the question of when a new driver actually is worth it and how to buy one without ever paying that inflated new price again. That brings me to the finale, the piece I promised you at the start, and it's the single most valuable thing I found in all my testing. Let me take you back to that rule change I mentioned, because this is where it all ties together and pays off. I told you the spring effect got capped at 0.83, and the characteristic time test locked the face speed down by around 2008. Here's what that fact does for you as a buyer, and almost nobody connects these dots. It means a driver from 2017 or 2018 or 2019 has the exact same legal ball speed ceiling as the driver on the shelf today. The face on a 6-year-old flagship is just as hot legally as the face on this year's model. It has to be. They're both bumping the same ceiling. So when the independent robot tests show only a few yards between the newest driver and one from several years ago, this is why it's not luck. It's physics, locked in by a rule book. Now here's how you turn that into money back in your pocket. And this is the finale. The used and previous generation driver market is where the real value lives, and it exists precisely because of the marketing cycle we talked about. Every time a new model drops, thousands of golfers dump last year's driver, a club that performs within 2 or 3 yards of the new one, onto the used market, and the price collapses. A flagship driver that sold for $600 new will routinely sell in excellent condition for $200 to $250 just 2 or 3 years later. Same legal face, same 460cc head, same adjustable hosel, a third of the price. I did this myself, and it's the reason I stopped buying new. I bought a 2-year-old flagship head in mint shape for $220. Then I did the thing that most people miss. I took the money I saved, close to $400, and I spent a fraction of it on the one thing that actually matters. I got fit for the right shaft. A proper shaft fitting with a lighter shaft matched to my tempo cost me far less than the difference I saved, and it gave me more yards than any new head ever had. That's the play. Buy the head used and previous generation because the face is maxed out by law and the newness premium is a myth. Then put a small piece of your savings into loft and shaft fit because that's where the yards for a slower swing genuinely come from. You end up longer than the guy who paid full price, and you keep hundreds of dollars. Let me put the whole thing together in numbers so you feel it. The guy who buys new pays $600 and gains, honestly, 2 yards over the club he had. You buy a $220 previous generation head, set the loft up 1.5 degrees with the free wrench, tee it higher, put in a 55-gram shaft matched to your swing, and pick up 10, 12, even 15 yards of carry. He spent $600 to gain 2. You spent maybe $300 all in to gain 15. That is the entire game exposed. And this isn't a secret because someone hid it in a vault. It's a secret because there's no advertisement for it. Nobody makes money telling you to buy a 3-year-old driver and get fit for a shaft. The truth was sitting right there in the conformance rules and the robot data the whole time. The engineers ran into the ceiling, the marketers papered over it with paint and stories, and the independent testers quietly proved it year after year. Now you have it too. So let me leave you with the real feeling underneath all of this. You are not behind. You were never the problem. The distance you thought your body lost, a good chunk of it was sitting in a wrench you never used and a shaft nobody fit to you, while an industry counted on you believing that longer only came in a new box. You're the kind of golfer who wants the truth over the hype, or you wouldn't have watched this far. You want results you can feel in your own hands and money that stays in your own pocket. That's exactly who this is for. So tell me one thing down in the comments. What driver are you playing right now, and what year is it? Go check the wrench. Tell me the loft you've got it set at, and I'll tell you whether I'd turn it up. Leave that comment. I read them, and I answer, And if you're the kind of player who refuses to be overcharged for 2 yards and a new paint job, you belong here with the rest of us who test before we trust. Subscribe and stand with the golfers who want the honest number instead of the sales pitch. Next time, I'm putting the lightweight senior shafts head-to-head on the launch monitor to show you exactly how many miles per hour each one is really worth, because a couple of them shocked me. And if you want all of this written down, the free guide I put together lays out the whole used driver and shaft fitting plan step by step, so you can walk into your next round longer and hundreds of dollars richer. I've barely scratched the surface here. Inside the Honest Fairway Club, this video keeps going my full used driver buying plan and fitting framework, picking up right where we left off. Ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be alone. You'll belong with senior golfers like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen and cancel anytime. One click. If this helped you find the right driver, why not subscribe and stay with me? I've got plenty more golf tips right here to help you play your best. More is on the way.